Hi, Leo. Good afternoon, and welcome to your reading. This reading already has my full attention, and honestly, this feels like a really important message. Let's see what the cards have to say. There is a trembling in your spirit right now that has nothing to do with fear. It feels like fear because your body has forgotten the difference between terror and anticipation, between dread and the electric awareness that something sacred is approaching your life at a speed you were not prepared for. You have spent so long bracing for bad news, so long conditioning yourself to expect the next blow, the next disappointment, the next proof that the world is not a safe place for someone who hopes as deeply as you do. That your nervous system has lost the ability to distinguish between a threat approaching and a blessing arriving. They both feel like trembling. They both make your hands shake and your chest tighten and your breath catch somewhere between your throat and your lungs. But what is coming for you is not a threat. What is coming is the thing you stopped letting yourself pray for because the wanting hurt too much. I need you to hear something, and I need you to hear it before the noise of your own doubt drowns it out. There is a miracle that has been set in motion for your life, and it is arriving on Sunday. Not a metaphorical Sunday, not a symbolic representation of some future moment of rest, but this Sunday. The one that is approaching on your calendar with the same quiet certainty as every other Sunday before it, except that this one is carrying something the others did not. This one has been marked, chosen, set apart by a force so much larger than anything your mind can fully comprehend that trying to understand it intellectually will only get in the way of receiving it. This is not the kind of miracle that rewards analysis. It is the kind that rewards surrender. And I know surrender is a word that makes you flinch, because in your experience, surrender has meant giving up. It has meant lowering your guard only to be blindsided by something you should have seen coming. It has meant trusting and being wrong, believing and being made a fool of, opening your hands only to have them emptied again. Your relationship with surrender has been shaped by experiences that taught you the terrible, incomplete lesson that letting go equals losing. But there is another kind of surrender, one that you have never fully experienced because the conditions for it have never been right until now. It is the surrender of someone who has fought long enough and hard enough and faithfully enough to have earned the right to set down their weapons. Not because the battle is lost, but because the battle has been won, and the only thing preventing you from walking into the victory is the fact that your fists are still clenched around the handle of a sword you no longer need. I want you to imagine what it would feel like to unclench. Not just your fists, but everything. The jaw you have been holding tight without realizing it. The shoulders you have been carrying somewhere near your ears for months. The part of your mind that is always running calculations, always assessing threats, always scanning the horizon for the next thing that could go wrong. Imagine releasing all of it. Not because the world has suddenly become safe, the world has never been entirely safe and never will be. But because you have become strong enough to exist in an unsafe world without being in a constant state of armed readiness, that is the surrender being asked of you, not the surrender of the defeated. The surrender of the warrior who has won the right to rest. Let me tell you what I sense about the nature of this miracle, because the energy around it is extraordinarily specific. This is not a vague general blessing that could mean anything and therefore means nothing. This is targeted. This is precision. This is the kind of divine intervention that has your fingerprints on it, that was designed for the exact shape of the hole in your life, that fits so perfectly into the space that has been empty for so long that when it arrives, you are going to feel a sensation you may not immediately recognize. It is the feeling of something clicking into place. The feeling of a puzzle piece that you have been holding for years, turning it over and over in your hands, trying to find where it belongs, suddenly sliding into the exact spot it was always meant to occupy. There will be an almost audible click inside your spirit when it happens, a sound that only your soul can hear. And in that moment, you will know with absolute certainty that this was always the plan, that the waiting was not punishment, that the delay was not denial, that every single day between the prayer and the answer was a day in which something was being prepared, either in you or in the circumstances surrounding you, that was essential for this miracle to land properly. Because miracles can land improperly. That is something most people do not talk about, and I think it is important to address because it explains so much of what you have been going through. There have been moments in your past where good things arrived, but you were not in a position to receive them fully. Opportunities came, but you were too wounded to recognize them. Doors opened, but you were too exhausted to walk through them. Love was offered, but you were too afraid to accept it without conditions. Those were not failed miracles. They were miracles that arrived before the landing strip was ready, before the ground of your life had been leveled and cleared and prepared to support the weight of what was being delivered. And so they bounced off. They grazed you without landing. They left you with the agonizing awareness that something beautiful had been close enough to touch, but had not stayed. And you blamed yourself for that, didn't you? You told yourself you were not enough, that you had done something wrong, that you were the reason the good things did not stick. That self-blame became its own kind of prison. You started approaching every new possibility with the assumption that you would somehow ruin it, that there was something fundamentally broken in your ability to receive and keep good things. And that assumption became a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because it was true, but because the energy of expecting failure creates a tension in the body and the spirit that makes it genuinely harder to receive with open hands. You were gripping too tightly, holding too hard, trying to control the outcome so intensely that you squeezed the life out of the very things you were trying to hold on to. It was never that you were not enough. It was that you were trying too hard to be enough, and the trying itself was the barrier. You were not the reason. The timing was the reason. And now the timing is right. The landing strip is ready. The ground of your life has been prepared through every tear you have cried, every lesson you have learned, every boundary you have set, every moment of self-worth you have reclaimed from the wreckage of experiences that tried to convince you that you did not deserve to be standing where you are standing right now. All of that preparation was for this every difficult morning where you chose to get up anyway, every night where you chose to keep believing anyway, every moment where the easier path was cynicism and you chose faith instead. All of it was the ground crew preparing the landing strip for exactly this delivery. All of it was leading here, to this Sunday, to this miracle, to this moment where heaven and earth conspire to deliver into your hands the thing that has had your name on it since before you were born. I want to talk about what has been happening to you in the days leading up to this moment, because the signs have been there, and I think naming them will help you trust what is unfolding. You have been experiencing a strange emotional volatility that does not match your circumstances. One moment you feel inexplicably hopeful, almost giddy, as if your spirit knows something your mind does not. The next moment you feel a heaviness so profound it takes conscious effort to move through your day. You have been crying without clear reasons. Not the crying of sadness, although it can feel that way, but the crying of release. Your body has been shedding the emotional weight it has been carrying for months, maybe years, making room for what is coming by emptying out what no longer serves you. Those tears are not weakness. They are preparation. They are your spirit clearing the channel through which this miracle will flow. You have also been noticing disruptions in your sleep, not necessarily insomnia, but a restlessness, a sense of being on the edge of something that keeps pulling you back from the depth of rest your body wants. Your dreams have been vivid and strange, populated by symbols and scenarios that do not make logical sense, but that leave you with a feeling when you wake, a residue of meaning that clings to you throughout the day, even though you cannot translate it into words. That is your subconscious processing the magnitude of the shift that is approaching. Your deeper mind can see what is coming even when your waking mind cannot, and it is working overtime to prepare your psyche for the impact of receiving something you had almost given up on. And there is something else, something more subtle but perhaps more significant than all the rest. You have been feeling a pull toward stillness. In a life that is normally filled with noise and movement and the constant pressure to do and achieve and perform, you have been feeling an unusual desire to just stop, to sit, to be quiet, to exist without agenda or purpose or productivity. That pull is not laziness and it is not depression. It is the instinct of a soul that knows it needs to be still in order to receive. You cannot catch something precious if you are running. You cannot hear a whisper if you are shouting. And what is being delivered to you on Sunday is going to arrive not with thunder and spectacle, but with the quiet authority of something that does not need to be loud because its power speaks for itself. Now, I need to tell you something about the architecture of this miracle, because understanding how it has been built will help you trust it when it arrives. This did not come together overnight. It did not spring into existence in response to a single desperate prayer or a moment of crisis. What is arriving on Sunday is the culmination of years of invisible work, both yours and the divine's. Every time you chose faith over evidence, every time you held on to hope when the rational thing to do was let go, every time you whispered into the darkness, "I still believe, even though I do not know why," you were adding a brick to the structure that is now complete enough to reveal itself. Your faith was not passive, it was not idle, it was construction. You were building something with every prayer, every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of stubborn, unreasonable, beautifully irrational belief that something better was possible for your life. And now the building is done, the scaffolding is coming down, and what stands behind it is going to take your breath away. There were moments during the construction when you almost walked away from the site, moments when the progress was so invisible, so imperceptible, that it felt indistinguishable from nothing happening at all. You stood there looking at what appeared to be empty ground and thought, "What am I doing? Why am I still investing energy into something that shows no evidence of existing? Why am I still praying when the silence is all I receive in response?" Those moments of doubt were not failures of faith. They were the most human, most honest, most courageous parts of the entire process. Because doubt that does not lead to abandonment is not the opposite of faith. It is faith in its most refined form. It is faith that has been tested by the fire of silence and has survived. And that tested, refined, fire-proven faith is the mortar that holds every brick of your miracle together. Without it, the structure would crumble. With it, the structure is unbreakable. But here's what I want to caution you about, and I say this not to dampen your anticipation, but to deepen your readiness. When Sunday arrives, the miracle may not look the way you expect. The divine does not operate according to your imagination's specifications. It operates according to a wisdom that can see the entire trajectory of your life, past, present, and future, and that knows exactly what you need, even when what you need looks nothing like what you wanted. You may have been praying for one thing, and the miracle may arrive wearing the clothes of something else entirely. It may come as a conversation rather than a windfall. It may come as a closing rather than an opening. It may come as the removal of something you were clinging to rather than the addition of something new. And if it arrives in an unexpected form, your first instinct may be confusion or even disappointment, because the package does not match the picture you had in your mind. Do not let that first instinct override your deeper knowing. Give yourself the grace to sit with what arrives before you judge it. Give the miracle room to unfold, because divine gifts are rarely fully comprehensible in the moment of delivery. They reveal their true nature over time, layer by layer, the way a flower reveals itself, not all at once, but petal by petal, each one opening to show something more beautiful and more intricate than what was visible before. What arrives on Sunday is the first petal, and what it opens into over the days and weeks that follow is going to make you understand why the answer took the form it did, and why that form was infinitely more perfect than anything your limited human perspective could have designed. I want to shift now and talk about someone who is connected to this miracle, because there is a person whose energy is woven into what is unfolding, and their role in it is not coincidental. This individual, and you may already have a sense of who they are, or you may not recognize them until the moment arrives, has been positioned by the same divine intelligence that is orchestrating everything else. They are not the miracle itself, but they are the hands through which part of it will be delivered. Think of them as a messenger, not in the angelic sense, although there is something almost angelic about the precision of their timing, but in the human sense, a person whose own journey, whose own decisions, whose own growth and struggles and breakthroughs have led them to a place where they are able to offer you something that no one else on earth could offer in exactly the same way. What is remarkable about this person's role is that they have been on their own journey of transformation without any awareness that it was converging with yours. They have been making choices, working through their own pain, evolving through their own challenges, and each step they took was unknowingly bringing them closer to the moment where their path intersects with yours in a way that benefits both of you profoundly. This is one of the most beautiful things about divine orchestration, the way it weaves separate lives together into a tapestry that no single person could have designed, the way it uses the private struggles of one person as the raw material for another person's breakthrough, and vice versa, so that both people are served by the same sacred moment. This person may not even know the significance of what they are carrying for you. They may deliver the message, the opportunity, the connection, the word, the gesture, the invitation, without any awareness that they are participating in something sacred. That is often how the divine works. through ordinary people doing what feels to them like ordinary things, unaware that their ordinary action is the final piece of an extraordinary puzzle that has been assembling itself across time and space and circumstance for longer than anyone involved can comprehend. Pay attention on Sunday to who speaks to you. Pay attention to who reaches out. Pay attention to the unexpected contact, the surprising invitation, the conversation that seems casual but carries an unusual charge. Pay attention to the person who says something that lands differently than anything else you have heard, not because the words are remarkable in themselves, but because they arrive at the exact moment when your heart is open enough, tender enough, prepared enough to receive them as the keys they actually are. The messenger may not look like a messenger. The miracle may not look like a miracle, but your spirit will know. It will recognize the vibration of divine orchestration even when your mind is still trying to categorize what is happening as ordinary. There is something I need to address that has been sitting heavily in the energy of this message since the beginning, and it is about the guilt you carry, because you carry guilt, don't you? Not the productive kind that leads to course correction and growth, but the corrosive kind that eats away at your ability to receive good things without immediately bracing for the cost. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed a belief that blessings come with invoices, that every good thing must be paid for with an equivalent suffering, that the universe operates on a ledger system where joy in one column must be balanced by pain in another. And this belief has been quietly, insidiously undermining your capacity to receive freely, to accept good things at face value, to let something beautiful into your life without immediately scanning the horizon for the catch. You learned this belief early. It was not something you chose consciously. It was something you absorbed through observation, through the painful evidence of your own experience, through watching good things arrive only to be followed by loss, through learning to associate happiness with vulnerability and vulnerability with danger. Over time, you developed a sophisticated internal system for managing joy, keeping it at arm's length, rationing it, never allowing yourself to experience it fully because full joy felt like an invitation for full loss. And this system protected you. It genuinely did, for a time. But protection that outlives its usefulness becomes a prison, and the system you built to shield yourself from disappointment has become the very thing preventing you from experiencing the fullness of what life is trying to give you. I want to dismantle that belief right here, right now, because it is standing between you and the full experience of what Sunday is bringing. The divine does not operate a ledger. Grace is not an economic transaction. The miracle that is arriving is not a reward for your suffering. It is not compensation for your pain, and it is not a balance being restored to some cosmic accounting system. It is a gift, pure, unearned, unconditional. It is arriving not because you have suffered enough to deserve it, but because the love that moves through the universe is not concerned with deserving. It is concerned with timing, and the timing is now, not because you have paid enough, but because you are ready enough. And readiness and payment are two entirely different currencies. Let me tell you what readiness looks like, because you may not see it in yourself. Readiness looks like the quiet transformation that has been happening inside you for longer than you realize. It looks like the way you have slowly, almost imperceptibly, stopped abandoning yourself in favor of others. It looks like the boundaries you have set that felt terrifying in the moment, but that created the the space in your life where something new could actually enter. It looks like the conversations you have had with yourself, the honest, unflinching, sometimes painful conversations where you looked at your own patterns and said, this is not who I want to be anymore. It looks like the way you have been learning through trial and extraordinary error to trust your own judgment, even when every voice around you is telling you something different. That is readiness, and you have it. Not because you are perfect, not because you have figured everything out, not because you have achieved some elevated state of spiritual mastery. You have it because you have been honest. Honest with yourself about your flaws, your fears, your desires, your wounds. Honest in a way that most people never manage, because most people are too afraid of what honesty reveals. You looked at the truth and you did not look away. And that unflinching honesty is the very quality that makes you capable of receiving a miracle without distorting it, without diminishing it, without unconsciously sabotaging it the way you may have sabotaged good things in the past when you did not believe you were worthy of them. You are worthy of this. I know those words might feel hollow because you have heard them before, from well-meaning friends, from self-help books, from messages that felt generic and impersonal. But I am not saying them generically. I am saying them to you specifically in this moment because the energy I am reading is your energy, and what I see in it is a person who has walked through fire after fire after fire and is still standing, still breathing, still hoping, still reaching toward the light, even from the bottom of the deepest wells they have fallen into. That resilience is not common. That endurance is not ordinary. And the miracle that is arriving on Sunday is, in a very real sense, the universe's acknowledgement of everything you have survived without losing the part of yourself that makes survival worthwhile. Your capacity to believe that something better is possible. I want to speak now about what Sunday itself will feel like, because I think preparing your senses will help you recognize the miracle when it arrives. The morning is going to feel different. You may notice it the moment you open your eyes. A quality to the air, a texture to the light, a subtle but unmistakable sense that the day you have woken into is not like the others. It will feel charged, the way the atmosphere feels before rain, heavy with potential, thick with something that is about to be released. You may feel unusually emotional for no apparent reason. You may feel unusually calm, which can be its own kind of strange when you have been living in a state of chronic vigilance. You may feel both at the same time, a paradox of peace and intensity that does not resolve itself, but simply holds you in its grip, like two hands pressing gently against either side of your chest. There is a particular quality to the hours before a miracle lands, a quality I can only describe as heightened ordinariness. Everything looks the same as it always does. The same kitchen, the same view from the window, the same sounds from the street, but there is a shimmer to it, a sense that the ordinary surface of things is thinner than usual, that something luminous is pressing against the other side of reality, preparing to break through. You may notice beauty in things you normally overlook, the way the light falls on a wall, the sound of a voice you hear every day but suddenly hear differently, the weight of your own body in a chair, solid and present and alive in a way that catches you off guard with its vividness. These are not distractions. They are your senses, opening, widening, attuning themselves to a frequency that they need to be calibrated to in order to receive what is coming. Follow your instincts on Sunday. Do not override them with plans or obligations or the pressure to be productive. If you feel pulled to be alone, be alone. If you feel pulled to go somewhere specific, go. If you feel pulled to reach out to someone, reach out. Your intuition on Sunday is going to be operating at a frequency it has not reached before, and the messages it sends you will be clearer and more urgent than usual. Trust them even when they do not make logical sense, especially when they do not make logical sense. Because the divine communicates through intuition, precisely because intuition bypasses the filters of the rational mind that would otherwise dismiss what is being transmitted as impractical or irrational or too good to be true. There is one more thing I need to tell you, and it is perhaps the most important thing in this entire message. Here at Mary's Angel Tarot, when something comes through with this level of urgency and specificity, with this insistence on a particular day and a particular moment, it is always because the window of receptivity matters. The miracle will arrive on Sunday regardless of what you do. The divine does not require your cooperation to set events in motion. But your experience of it, the depth to which it penetrates, the degree to which it transforms rather than merely touches your life, that depends on the state of your heart when it arrives. A closed heart can witness a miracle and explain it away. An open heart can receive a miracle and be forever changed by it. The difference is not in the miracle, it is in the receiving. So, between now and Sunday, I am going to ask you to do something simple but profoundly important. I am going to ask you to soften. Soften your expectations. Soften your defenses. Soften the hard shell you have built around the most vulnerable parts of your heart, the parts that still believe in impossible things, the parts that still light up when something good approaches, even though every experience has taught you to brace rather than to open. I am not asking you to be naive. I am not asking you to abandon your discernment or throw open the doors of your life without care for who or what enters. I am asking you to make a small, private, sacred decision between now and Sunday to lower your guard just enough to let something in, just enough to create a crack in the armor through which light can enter, just enough to say to the universe, I am tired of protecting myself from the very things I have been praying for. That crack is all that is needed. The divine does not require a wide open door. It requires only a crack. And through that crack, through that tiny fissure of willingness, something is going to enter your life on Sunday that changes everything. Not in the way that explosions change things, leaving destruction and chaos in their wake, but in the way that dawn changes things. Gradually, inevitably, with a gentleness that belies the magnitude of the transformation. One moment it is dark. The next, there is a thin line of light on the horizon. And then, before you fully register what has happened, the entire sky is illuminated and the darkness that felt so permanent, so immovable, so eternally fixed, has simply ceased to exist. Not because it was defeated, but because the light was always coming. It was always going to come, and Sunday is the day it arrives. You have waited long enough. You have endured enough. You have questioned enough and doubted enough and cried enough and bargained enough and pleaded enough and almost given up enough times that the very fact that you are still here, still listening, still open to the possibility that a message like this could be meant specifically for you is proof of a resilience so profound that it can only be described as sacred. You are sacred. Your journey is sacred. Your pain was sacred not because suffering is holy, but because what you did with that suffering, the way you alchemized it into wisdom, into compassion, into a depth of understanding that most people spend their entire lives never reaching. That alchemy is the holiest act a human being can perform. And now the alchemy is complete. The lead has been turned to gold, and Sunday is the day you finally get to hold it in your hands. Do not be afraid of what is coming. It has your name on it. It has always had your name on it. And the hands that are delivering it to you are the same hands that held you together during every moment you thought you were falling apart. You were never falling apart. You were being rearranged, piece by piece, layer by layer, with a tenderness and a precision that you could not see because you were inside the process, too close to the work to recognize the artistry of it. And now the rearrangement is complete. And what stands in the place of the old is something so beautiful, so perfectly designed, so unmistakably yours that when you see it, the only possible response will be the one that has been building in your chest for longer than you can remember. The deep, shaking, full-body exhale of a person who has finally been given permission to stop holding their breath. Breathe. Sunday is almost here. All right. Thank you so much for watching Mary's Angel Tarot. Take care of your energy, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.